Today, I am joined by Kaitlin Cuevas. Kaitlin is the owner and founder of Think Happy Co. She's a lover of French roast coffee, golden doodles, and pump up music. She believes happiness is something we each create for ourselves and that you are in the driver's seat of your own life. Outside of work, she's a mom to Eleanor and James, wife to Oakley, and dog mom to Guppy. Think Happy serves women who struggle with juggling all the things and want to create sustainable systems to help them simplify their lives and allow them time to fill their own cup first. With a variety of both group and private programs, the goal is always to leave you feeling happier. You'll want to follow Kaitlin on Instagram at thinkhappy_co. I love how Kaitlin takes us through why we need to fill our cup, as well as the 3 areas you need to find balance in order to achieve it. You'll love the practical steps you can take to fill your cup without guilt. Here's our conversation. I am so excited to have Kaitlin Cuevas here. Welcome to the Imperfection In Progress podcast, Kaitlin.
Hey, Dawn. Thank you guys so much for having me. I have a huge smile on my face because I'm just so excited.
I love when I get to talk to people around themes. And so this month of September, we're talking about, again, women entrepreneurs, but the idea that we need to be taking care of ourselves. And so every guest has talked about different areas of taking care of ourselves. And I have to tell you, what you and I are talking about today, I am super excited about because I think it gets overlooked all the time. And I think it's vitally important. So let's hear a little bit about you first. And then we're going to talk more about how we can keep our own cups filled. But Kaitlin, tell us about what you do and why you are at this stage in your life.
Yeah. So I'm Kaitlin. I live in Houston, Texas with my husband. We have a 2.5-year-old daughter named Eleanor and an 8-month-old son named James. To put it kindly, they keep me on my toes. And then the glue who holds our whole family together is our golden doodle, Guppy. Obviously, she would be very disappointed if I did not give her the shout out that she deserves. A few random things I love because I always feel so awkward introducing myself. So I decided it's just better to go in with like some random things I like. French roast coffee, pump up music, to-do lists, exercising, and weekends with no plans. Those are all totally my jam. I founded my company, Think Happy Co., with one primary purpose, and that is to help busy women create sustainable habits and sustainable routines that first reduce their daily stress by creating systems and control. Second, decrease unproductive and wasted time throughout their day. And third, and this is what we're going to be talking about today, increase the amount of time they have to refill their own cup. So that's me and Think Happy Co. in a nutshell.
I love all of this. These are things that in my community I talk about a lot because we, like I said, often put ourselves last on the list. But there are so many women that I think love making lists, which I think is funny that you said that you like that.
But
Yeah, are you the one who also will put on your list things you've already done so you could check it off? Because I'm not.
you better believe it.
Yeah. So I know that that's out there, and yet I would bet that 90%, maybe more, of women have nothing on that list that actually is just something for them in their day.
Yeah, completely agree.
So let's talk a little bit about the fact that, I mean, we're busy women. Obviously, you have very young kids. I have 3, 2 that are teenagers, one that's getting there, and we have busy lives. But at the same time, why is it so important that we have time to fill our own cups? What is the purpose of that so that we're not just telling people they should do it, but like, what is the benefit to doing it?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you started with that question, Dawn, because if you didn't, I was gonna back up to why it's important. Something that I talk a lot about is having a why behind your what. And so I think it's so important knowing why you're working on something. I think that helps create a strong, solid foundation. And so when we talk about why it's important to keep your cup filled, it always brings me to this analogy that I think does a great job of illustrating the importance of this. So, this analogy is about our cell phone batteries. So, if you think about it, most likely you, we, all of us are on our phones literally all day long. We're on the phone to check email. We're on the phone to put something in our calendar, to maybe look up a recipe, to check Google Maps to make sure we know how to get to the doctor's appointment. And that's not even using the phone for what it's for, making phone calls. That's not even thinking about the time we spend scrolling. And so all day long, we're using our phone, using our phone, using our phone. And as we're using it, the battery is slowly going down, 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 down. Well, what happens when our phone battery gets to zero? Our phone dies. But here's where the analogy gets me really excited. When our phone battery dies and we plug our phone in to start charging it back up, it does not just automatically start back up. It takes a couple of minutes to regain enough charge so that it can turn back on. This, I think, is a beautiful analogy for us in our own cups. When we deplete our cup, it goes down, 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 down. And then when it gets bone dry, we can't just magically refill it up and be ready to rock and roll and give, give, give again. No, it takes a little bit of time. It takes intentional energy and effort to get enough back in our cup to start going again. So that is why it is important that we keep our cup filled, that we do not allow it to get to the point of 0% dead phone battery. Nothing left in this cup, bone dry.
Right. That is such a good analogy. I think it's really relatable. And it's funny because I haven't thought about the fact that when you do get to that point where you are dry, that it's not that it's going to charge back up in 30 seconds, right? Or 1 hour, or just have that like instant refill suddenly coming in.
Right,
And
right.
right. And so I think that's where a lot of times we get caught. Like we don't even realize how depleted we're becoming. And suddenly we're like, oh, I've got nothing more. We're snapping at the kids. We're angry. We
Yes.
don't know why we're responding how we are. Right. All of those things.
Yeah, and to your point, when we have a full cup, I believe that not only does it allow us to show up as the best version of ourselves for our family, our friends, our goals, our commitments, most importantly, it allows us to show up as the best version of ourselves for ourselves. And I don't know, I just think there's something really powerful about the notion of serving yourself first so we can in turn serve others better.
I like that. I know I've talked to women who will talk about the fact that when they go to bed at night, in their head, they're playing over the day and they're beating themselves for all the things that didn't go right, right? Like, I should have done this better. I'm such a bad mom. I didn't respond here well. This wasn't what I would have done if I had been in a better frame of mind. I was just so tired. I'm so upset that this didn't go well. And I think that is the one place where I'm often saying to women, but do you not see this as a symptom
Mhm.
of the fact that you are depleted,
Yeah.
right? For the months of July, August, and September, we are focusing on being a woman entrepreneur. I know personally that along my journey, there have been some amazing coaches who have helped me figure out exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted it to look and feel. Sometimes the overwhelm was crazy, and I needed that outside view to help simplify what I needed to focus on and to keep me accountable. My favorite thing about working with a coach is that I get more done in less time. Whether it is learning to manage my time, having step-by-step actions to complete a goal, or having someone to help me overcome limiting beliefs and mindset blocks, the coaches I have worked with have been a huge part of my success. Maybe you're looking for a coach or are curious if it's something you need. Because I believe so highly in helping women on their journey, I want to offer you something special. Each month, from July through September, I'm offering 30-minute strategy calls for free to the first 6 women who book a call with me. Each month, 6 new spots will open, and I hope you will take advantage of this time to get clear on where you are and where you want to go. I love learning about the women in my community, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what you want to create. Book your call by clicking on the link in the show notes, or go to my podcast page on my website, pursueprogress.com/podcast. These 6 spots are first come, first serve, so don't wait. Now, back to the podcast. Like you're past the point. It's too late. You can't backtrack, right?
Yeah.
So it's that keeping consistent every day and realizing that we need to be filling. But how do we do that? We're busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to throw in a word that I haven't used in this conversation yet up until this point, and that word is balanced. Okay. So, not only do I want us, you and me, the listeners, everyone in all of our communities, not only do I want us to be keeping our cups full, I also think that we should be keeping them balanced. This brings me to yet another analogy. I love analogies. There's just no way around it. And this analogy, hang on with me. I promise we're going somewhere with it. So, my most favorite latte of all time in the history of forever is a honey lavender latte. Okay. I only get them on special occasions because 9 times out of 10, I make my coffee at home. And I'm just like not talented enough to make a honey lavender latte. But anyway, so to make this delicious latte, it's a combination of three ingredients: espresso, milk, and lavender infused honey. Okay. So, with the perfect balance of this delicious espresso, this hot steamed milk, this yummy lavender honey, a warm, delicious beverage is created. So, what does this have to do with a well balanced cup? This is where we're circling the wagons. So, when we talk about having our own cup balance, I want you to think about these three ingredients, but instead of espresso, milk, and honey, the ingredients are body, heart, and mind. Okay. So, to have a balanced cup, you should have a combination of taking care of and filling your body, your heart, and your mind. Okay. So, what does that actually mean, Caitlin? That's an awesome analogy. Tell me what that means. Regarding your body, that's going to look like physically taking care of yourself. For your heart, that's going to mean emotionally taking care of yourself. And for your mind, this is going to mean mentally taking care of yourself. And so, to avoid having an unbalanced cup, I believe that we need to be keeping these three ingredients balanced. If not, you run the risk of having a latte that's just like way too strong because it has too much espresso, not enough milk and honey, or way too sweet because it has too much honey, not enough espresso and milk. That is the balanced cup. And the how is really looking at those three ingredients in your own life and having a game plan of, okay, what does physically taking care of myself look like? For some of us, that could be intentional movement. For some of us, it could be the fuel or the food that we're using to fuel ourselves. For our heart, what does emotionally taking care of myself look like? That could mean looking at the relationships that you have in your life, looking at the people, the accounts that you're following on social media. Are those serving you well? Are they lifting you up? Do you find yourself in a comparison game? That's not fun. That's not great for you emotionally. And for your mind, mentally taking care of yourself. Maybe for you, that looks like spending some quiet time alone in the morning. Maybe it looks like a journaling practice. Maybe it looks like a quiet walk where you can get in a meditative state. It's different for all of us.
I love this. I think often in any area actually of our life where we're having some difficulties or we know that things are out of whack, it's just starting to recognize like what is it and actually sitting down and taking account, right? And that's where often we don't give ourselves the time to do that.
Yeah.
And yet it's the have to do part of it.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree.
So as we're sitting down to look at this balance, what are we doing next then with this when we start to discover?
Yeah. That's such a good question. I always like to leave things like this with creating some sort of action plan, right? So, almost any activity that I walk my clients through, that I walk my community through, the last step is having some sort of action that's surrounding it, right? Because you just put in the time and the energy to get to this point. Use the information that you have unveiled. I know we're going to talk about this in a second, Dawn, but a guide that I'm going to share with your audience, it's called the Wasted Time Guide. The whole second half of it is all about creating action for yourself and not just being complacent and sitting back and waiting for these changes to come to you. I'm very much a believer that we're in the driver's seat of our own lives. And let's take that role of driver. Let's take that role of the leader in our own lives.
I like that you say this because, again, many times we can say, like, I'm just, this is just what my life is. Like, it's how it is. And we kind of become a little bit of a victim in our response to things and understanding that, yes, we can't change other people. We can't change necessarily all circumstances, but we certainly can change our response. We can change who we are in the way that we want to grow in our thoughts and our emotions, all of that. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot that we can take control of. And I think that's an important part that you're bringing up.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So another question I have for you about this, because again, in my community, sometimes what I see is, okay, I'm looking at these different areas. I know that I'm exhausted, that I'm not spending enough time actually doing things for me, whether that's again in the physical area, in the heart area, it doesn't matter. If there's an area that you feel like you're not spending time and you know that, and there can be a guilt response. Like, if I do that, I feel guilty that I'm taking that time. Is there anything that you can give us in order to help us manage that?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you gonna be surprised if I say I have an analogy? First of all, it is so common to have that sense of guilt. And I mean, I could talk about this for hours and hours. It almost feels like society is pushing us to the point where we feel badly for giving to ourselves. It's almost like we get praised. We find ourselves in conversations where we're bragging about how exhausted we are, how busy we are, how little sleep we're getting, how exhausted, how depleted we are. And I don't know why that is the quote unquote cool thing. Personally, I do not think it's cool. I would so much rather be in a conversation talking about how filled up I am and how I'm having so much fun with my kids because I'm taking care of myself and how I'm having fun in business because I'm balancing these other areas of my life and by no way shape or form would I ever want to say that I think balance is perfect. No. I think that there are definitely times where it ebbs and flows, but I do believe that it's gonna come out in the wash in the grand scheme of things. So, let me get back to this analogy that I was telling you about, and it's probably one that your listeners have heard or seen in some way, shape, or form before. And so, I want everyone to imagine an empty cup and a large pitcher of water, okay? So, that empty cup is you, the large pitcher of water is your energy. We'll just call it energy right now. Your time, your capacity, your bandwidth, right? So, you start pouring everything from the pitcher into that cup, right? So literally your cup starts filling up, filling up, filling up. You haven't even gotten to the other people yet. Your cup is almost filled. Oh my gosh, have I given all of what I have only to me? No, you haven't because the pitcher is so much bigger. And once you get to the brim, the water starts pouring out. And what does it do? It makes the biggest mess. It goes all over the table. It goes down to the floor. It's pooling on the floor. That is the impact that your time and energy can have when you first fill your own cup first, when it gets to the top and then it starts to spill over. That's when it starts spreading. And before you know it's all over the freaking kitchen. But but you've filled yourself first. You don't need to feel guilty for that. I think that it's going to take a lot of us intentionally switching this narrative to no, I don't want to be depleted and I want to be filled. I want to take care of me. I want to show the people around me, my kids, my family, my friends that like, hey, if I can do this, you can too.
This is such a good analogy. I can see why you really like analogies. But like, even hearing that makes me excited about filling my own cup. Like, the idea that that spillover and what it influences, and again, many of the women that I speak to when I'm having calls and so on will say they feel that they're called for something bigger, that they have a bigger purpose, but they feel so tired, they don't know how to begin. They have no extra space or energy to fit it in, and this is it. This is what exactly what you're saying is if we gave us first, then
Mhm.
we would be able to fulfill that purpose, to have that bigger calling, to go after it, to have
Yeah.
the resources and energy. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if we wanna go back to the phone analogy, we can't expect our phone to be working for us for a whole week straight without us plugging it in to get refilled. It just everyone knows, like, there's no way that's gonna happen. We're no different. We need that constant refilling.
Okay, so my last question for you. Usually on this podcast, we talk about people pleasing and perfectionism and procrastination. And I always ask my guests, which one of those three do you most relate to?
Oh gosh. This is a hard question, Dawn. I'm gonna say it probably changes for me in various seasons. So in this one season, I'm gonna say perfectionism. And I have a caveat because I do not think I'm a perfectionist, but in this season, I feel like that's the one that I relate to the most. And that is because I am still learning how to balance having two kids who are arguably still babies and a business that is kind of like my third baby. All three of them are so young, and I want to be there like 100% for all of it. And that is pushing me to a point of almost feeling like I need to be perfect. I need to like know exactly what to do when my daughter is sick. No one knows what to do when their kids are sick. I need to know exactly what to do in my business with XYZ. No one knows what to do. But it is a story that I have started telling myself. So that's my answer for right now.
I
If we
like
had another
this.
conversation in a month, maybe it would be something else.
It's true. It's true. And I think that's why it's important to understand those three are really intertwined. And so they show up at different times and spaces in our life. But I love hearing because you're in that stage of young growth in many areas of your life. And so the fact that perfectionism is one that's there and yet you're aware of it, which is key, right? Then you can choose how you want to respond and what you want to do with it. But I love to hear how different women who generally are all entrepreneurs on the podcast are seeing one of those P's show up or sometimes more in this particular time of your life. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course, I really love that question.
So the other thing that you mentioned earlier that I think would be great to know a little bit more about is
Yeah.
your free gift. And you can grab this in the show
Yes.
notes. So that's where you get it, but it's called the Wasted Time Guide. Tell us a little more of how this can serve us.
Yeah, okay. So this wasted time guide walks you through how to identify time in your days that you are either wasting or not using productively. So it helps us identify the time. And then the second part of the guide, as I referenced earlier in our conversation, walks you through figuring out how to then reallocate that time so that it serves you better. It sounds like it's like some fancy schmancy thing that's gonna take you half of a day. No, literally, one of my favorite parts of this is you can go through it in 10 minutes and walk away with like some actionable goals that you can start working towards to help you cut back on that time that you aren't using productively, to help you start putting some of that time maybe into filling yourself up. So yeah, that's what the wasted time guide is. It is one of my absolute favorite resources that I have, and I am thrilled to be getting the opportunity to share it with your listeners.
This free gift, like I said, you can grab it in the show notes. You can also find all of the different ways that you can connect with Kaitlin. I love that we get to connect into different women's communities and have you support us and be able to find those people that are what we need right now at this time in our life. But Kaitlin, where if somebody just wanted to connect with you right now, what's the easiest place for them to get to know you?
Yeah. So the easiest place is gonna be on Instagram. My handle is thinkhappy_co, that's CO. And then I also have the podcast, which Dawn is going to be on as well. And then I have a Facebook group where I do mini trainings every Tuesday. It's called the Think Happy VIPs. So just go search that up and would love to have you there and join me for some of those trainings.
Thank you so much, Kaitlin, for being on the podcast today. I so appreciate this conversation that we had.
Dawn, thank you so much. I really had a great time.